3 of Uncomfortable Conversations. That's what we're going to have again. And I am joined in the house. You'll soon see. Paxton Road TV. I'm going to start the music, the intro. I'm Sam Spurs for Life.
It's just different.
Hello, welcome to Paxton Road TV, PRTv Spurs. I'm Sam Spurs for Life, and this is your Talking Points episode number 125. I don't even think I've got the actual picture up to put up there, but you know the score. I'm joined in the house tonight by the one and only, here he is, Darius 3K. Welcome to the stream. How are we doing?
Nervous. I mean, we are in the crunch time of the season now, and certain people are still at the top of the table. So above all, I'm nervous, but I'm very happy to be here, and I'm very happy to talk about the topic that we're going to talk about today. So
yeah, we might touch on that to begin with, because what we've done, we've had part 1, part 2, this is part 3. So part 1, we kind of dealt with the short-term, I guess, uncomfortable things, nature of things that we wanted to talk about, and that was kind of like the players, the actual how we were from the first 10 games to the last 10 games, I guess, looking at who needs to possibly start, who might not be. Then we looked at part 2, just have a look at my notes here, transfers, playing style, Champions League. Do you think we should be in the Champions League? Should we be better off in the Europa League? It's going to be a challenge to get to the Champions League now anyway. But part 3 tonight, and we're going to try and keep this a little bit briefer than probably we might do. We might touch on it again. Might have to have part 4. But Manchester City's playing. I want to make sure that they beat Brighton tonight. So it's not like it's in my hands or anything, but I want them to beat Brighton. So that's what we're going to talk about, long-term aspects of uncomfortable conversations, investment, manager, success. What does that look like for people? So put your comments in the comment section, like, subscribe, share, Paxton Road TV, PRTv Spurs, all the rest of it, you know that. We're going to be changing soon anyway. Right then, Darius 3K. We've kind of, as I said, you've been on, I think, the first one, maybe the second one, I can't remember now, but we've kind of looked at how we think Spurs are, and there are some things that are now kind of out there that we can kind of tangibly kind of dissect. I think the first time that I kind of looked at, and not in a different way, because as I said, I think he's still the man for Spurs. Obviously, he's the man for Spurs, considering what we had from Conte. But when I kind of started to look at him just a little bit like that was when we played Chelsea. 9 men. We obviously lost that game. It was close. Could have possibly nicked it when we had 10. Went down to 9. It wasn't like to nick it then. Chelsea weren't that good at that time. But he came out and said, nah, mate, don't matter. Could have 8 men, 7 men, 6 men. He didn't say that, but effectively said that. He'd play the same way. And that's when I was like, okay, I don't think you can do that with 9 men in the Prem. I don't think you can even do that with 11 men every single game, play exactly the same way. So the manager, what's your thoughts on Ange Postecoglou so far?
I think it's been a good campaign so far, given what we probably expected before the season started. You know, when you get a new manager in, a new project, you know, as you say, we've got a new director of football in as well. I think the most important thing is you want to see an identity within, you know, the team, the club. So then at least in the future going on in this project, you at least know where the base is, you know, where everything starts, you know, exactly what the blueprint is for the success to hopefully lead in the future. And I think we saw that. I think, you know, we obviously in the first 10 games saw that shine through in the Premier League for Ange Postecoglou. Now we look back at it, the reasons for that happening can be up for debate now. Some would say that's just the way we play at our best. When we're at our best, we're the best team in the league. And some others would say, you know, we were a very, very new sort of style of football, a new tactic introduced to the Premier League that people hadn't really seen before, unless you played against Celtic or watched Postecoglou. Nobody really seen what we'd done before, done to the extremes that we'd done it, and it caught a lot of people off guard, I believe. So yeah, however you want to perceive how that first part of the season went, it's up to you. But at the end of the day, it's gone well. If you were to tell us before the season started, fifth, decent-ish run, I guess you would say, not really that good in the cups, and a good style of football, and a solid squad, I would say, then I think you'd say it's a good season. But the longer the season's gone on, I think it just looks a little bit more ugly than maybe we first thought. And I'm not trying to say that it's all going to shit and it's all going horrible, but I've seen certain things happen in games where if it doesn't change, and the manager has told us that he doesn't expect to change anytime soon, I don't see how we are successful as a club in this project going forward if we don't spend the amount of money that we need to spend. So yeah, as the season's gone on, I think for Ange Postecoglou, I think he's done a fine job, and it's all okay in terms of where we should be. But I've seen a lot more things that, like you said, you put that little side eye out there. Seen a lot more things that I'd raise my eyebrows to as the season's gone on.
Yeah. Before people start getting on, we're on Ivor Ange's case. Ange's breath of fresh air. He's the new manager in, and he's for Tottenham. He wants Tottenham to do well. He's been everywhere else. He's had success and all the rest of it. Just taking some blue tack out of my trainers here. But that was in Australia. That was in Japan, or wherever he's been. That was in those places where it's not the Premier League. Scotland. That's where the other place he's been to, isn't it? Scotland. That's definitely not the Premier League. Two teams fight it out. And then when he was there, it was probably only one team. It was Celtic. But saying all of that, Ange's definitely got a playing style that if you have, as I've always maintained since I've seen that first 10 games, if you've got quality in your team and you've got players motivated, you can obviously win the majority of games. But all it takes is one or two players to be off form, one or two players to be out through injury, through suspension, and bringing in not so high quality. And I think we saw that after game 10 this season in the Premier League. And that's kind of like where we are now. So if Ange believes that he can play any way, the way that he wants to play in every single game, in every single competition, which I'm assuming that he's going to do that because he said that, not me, he said that, then we have to expect what we get in. Results where we're winning games 3 and 4. We might nick a game 2, but then we're going to get games where we lose 3 and 4, possibly even 5s. And we've seen that happen already this season. The embarrassing one being that 5 against Newcastle, with a team that had as many injuries as we did. We probably had more players coming back at that game, and we just didn't put up a fight. And that's what I'm trying to now look at. Why are these players not fighting? The manager has obviously given these players a license to play, but it looks as if they're coached to within an inch of their life. What I'm saying by that is I can see it. I think it was a game where I said, I don't know if it was a Newcastle game or the game before that, where I said, we don't shoot from outside the box. Then all of a sudden, the game afterwards, where we weren't shooting from outside the box, it might have been the Fulham game, we started to shoot from outside the box, and we lost that Fulham game as well. So there are things in there that Ange wants to see, but my bottom line is I don't believe we've got the quality throughout the whole squad to be able to play exactly the same way in all competitions. I.e., if you get into the Champions League next season, you might do well in the group stages because it's a new format. But once you get to the knockout 2-legged affairs, you have to change your way. What do you think it's going to be like if we get into the Champions? What do you think it's going to be like in Europe? Because we're likely to be in Europe next season, though. So how do you see the way Ange is approaching things for us to do well in European competition? Then we're going to come back to touch on how well you're going to think we're going to do next season.
I'll be honest with you, I see us getting pammed in Europe. And I don't know if I've said this on Paxton Road, but I've said this to a lot of friends. Our football is not suited for European competitions. In Europe, a lot of teams, given, from being from different countries, teams will grind out results. A point for certain teams, and I know the format's changing, so this may have an advantage for us, but teams grind points out in Europe. If you look at the way teams play, they can grind a result out. They don't necessarily have to dominate a game to get a point. Take Man United, for example. I mean, they did pretty much, they were dominated in a sense by Copenhagen and Galatasaray, but those sort of teams can almost make it frustrating for a team like us, where they will just sit 8-9 players back and counter attack if needed to, because they care about the results. It's a big win to get a point is a massive result if you're a team looking to get into third place, and fall into that Europa League spot. So for me, given the format change, it might be different, but if we book any pretty decent to elite club, we could look at getting battered nearly every single time. And it's difficult for me to then say we're going to do well even in Europa League, because the way we play is not set up for what's it called? Oh, thank God. the Europa our side of football is not set up for knockout football, in my opinion. So when we get to those knockout stages, if Ange Postecoglou says what he says he does, as he has in interviews, and says we're not going to change the way we play, well, if we're 2-1 up against Barcelona with 15 minutes to play at the Nou Camp, and we just need to hold out for 15 minutes to win the game and go through, and he decides to play, every single person in the box bar one centre-back, and then we concede and then go on to lose the game, and there's only one person I'm really blaming for that. So, and I'm not even trying to, this is not me assuming, this is coming from the manager's mouth. He's told us he's going to do these things.
Can I ask you one question though? Do you not think the players would take responsibility in that situation?
So, as you being a coach, if you set us out a tactic and we thought, you know what, he's talking bollocks, I'm just going to do what I want because I want to do what I think is right. Even if you were wrong, doesn't that diminish you as a coach and diminish your credibility? At the end of the day, the coach makes a decision and he sets out what he wants. If that's right or wrong, you call him out if you want to. You still have to listen to the coach. Coach is a coach. So, and it's up to the people above the coach to be like, hold on, something ain't right. You ain't doing things right. We're going to make a change. So as much as you say, is it up to the players? Yeah. If they show 50% of their character, if they show 50% effort, then yeah, it is on their players. But if they're putting in all the effort they can, yeah, Van der Ven has to defend one or two rapid attackers against, do you know what I mean? If he has to defend 3 attackers running at him from the halfway line, it's not really his fault in a way. I know, you look at what happened against, who was it who we played where he had Newcastle, where he had those mistakes. I understand that. But a lot of those times in that game, if we just dropped our line 5-10 yards, he wouldn't have been caught out in those situations and scenarios. So as much as I hear what you're saying, coach has a final say, and I think you can understand where I'm coming from.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with that. But there are times when, and I'm not talking about specific tactics. You're right. Coaches should put that out, right or wrong. The coaches should be fine because he's the one that picks the team. He's the one that sets everybody up. But what I mean by players taking responsibility, in the final couple of minutes, and you just put a scenario, and you're winning 2-1, you probably got 10 minutes to go, and Barcelona get a free kick, or let Barcelona get a corner, and you know that they've got their best header of the ball, and we've been doing zonal marking, and we've been getting, sussed out in terms of, the corners. I would expect our players in that situation to say, okay, hold on. I know we're supposed to be doing zonal here. I know it's all this, but we've had 3 or 4 corners where he's come up and he's had a marking. I would expect the players to do that. Now, whether the coach would come off the pitch and say, well done, depending on what the result is. If you get a positive result from it, everything's all rosy. If you don't get a positive result, then the questions will be asked. But I still think players do need to take responsibility at certain times in the game. Now, the problem I've seen for Spurs is I'm not quite sure players do that. I'm not quite sure that we have enough leaders, and I'm talking about fight, lead, whatever you want to call it. I haven't seen enough fight. That's one thing in our players. And I've said before, we we can only do this thing if we've got quality throughout. We're going to see, obviously, on Sunday, Udogi's out, who's going to come in. Now, it could benefit us because the way that Udogi plays, very attacking, not as much defense. Maybe if Ben Davies plays, he's going to be more defensive. He might not go forward. That's the sort of thing because, you know...
If Ben Davies plays,
mm-hmm.
you think Postecoglou is going to play Ben Davies in a role that suits Ben Davies, or is he just going to do like for like Ben Davies in Udogi's role?
No, I've seen it already. I know he's going to play Ben Davies as the inverted fullback. But what I think might happen, whereas Udogi seems to get forward a lot more often and probably higher up, I don't think Ben Davies will play as high. I think he'll probably still play the same role and he will get forward. But to see him get to the byline more often than not, I don't think you'll see that. I think you'll see him kind of do a bit of a half and half. He'll get forward when he has to, but play a little bit more defensive. But I think we're going to be forced to play a bit more defensive.
Well, this is the thing. I hear what you're saying, and I agree with you. Ben Davies being as a left back is going to mean we're going to play more defensively. But if he's going to try to play that Udogi role, but doesn't have the physical characteristics, technical characteristics that Udogi has, it's going to detriment the whole system. It's like you take an important piece out of your Jenga tower, and if it's the one that's holding everything together, everything's going to collapse. So
we've seen that with Van de Ven. We saw that with Van de Ven.
The point I'm trying to make is you can't like for like, but unless Ben Davies is the exact same profile as Udogi, you're going to have to tweak something because Ben Davies is going to do what Udogi does to a very, very, very low level, and we're going to get caught out or we're going to squander chances. I don't know what's going to happen, but I think it's
one thing I will say to this. Players who come in, Brendan Davies will put a high effort in because he's obviously he hasn't played for a while. He's going to want to prove himself. You're right in what you said. He doesn't have the same skill set as Udogi. So the problem that we're going to face is if he does, as you said, say to Ben Davies, go on, mate, do the same thing. I want you to get forward. He hasn't got the pace. He hasn't got the height. He hasn't got the strength. On the other hand, though, Udogi's proved that he hasn't, and we're only touching on this because it's just an example. Udogi hasn't proved to be in the last few games. Obviously, his defensive weaknesses have come to light. That might not necessarily be him. That might be because of the style that we play, because he gets caught higher at the pitch. But there's been occasions where I think he could have done a lot more getting back. I think he could track back a lot more. And if he's struggling to track back at 21, because he's doing all the running up and down and he got to the point where he's fatigued in the season, how the hell is Ben Davies going to do that for a long period of time if he's having to replace him? I can't see that happening. So you're right. I think we would have to change something slightly in our playing style if you don't have the quality replacements to replace that player. Now, just this comment here from David Clark. If we play this way until the end of the season with a weak and left-sided, I think we will lose 4 games out of 6. So that Ange has had time to know all his players and he knows their weaknesses. 100% agree with that, David.
Don't think he cares, to be honest.
I'd hate to think he doesn't care, but what I think he is, and with a lot of managers, stubborn. They're stubborn. That's the word I can use for it. He thinks his method works, and he's going to continue with it until such time that he's relieved of duties, if that's the case, or we win something.
So yeah, I was just about to say, what's the limit then?
So let's touch on that.
Newcastle.
We need to look at what success is. What success to me is not playing good football. That's not success. That's just an element of, part of being successful. You want to play decent football. You want to play winning football. Ultimately, you want to win something. That's where I'm looking at. Whether that's the Carabao, FA Cup, Premier League, Champions League, Europa League, Europa Conference League, whatever competition you're in, at some point we have to win one of those competitions. Now, I've already put it on a hierarchy scale. The easiest one to win is obvious. It's the Carabao Cup, given a bit of luck and who you meet, etc., etc. But certainly winning the Premier League is going to be a tough ask. Certainly winning Champions League would be an even tougher ask, even though we got to the final in 2019. Europa League is a competition that I'd like us to be in for next season and give that a real good go. That's what success looks like to me, winning a trophy. Some people might think success is being better than we were last season. So if we finished 8th last season and we finished 5th, yeah, that's successful. And to a point, you're correct. But what have you won? Plaudits. That's all you've won. Plaudits. You know what I mean? Well done, Spurs. You've been 3 places high. You've got 1.5 million or whatever it is, extra bit of money. I don't care about that. I want to see us aiming to win. I don't want to see us take this competition seriously or not. No, every single competition we should take it seriously. Do you see that for Spurs next season's success? And what would success look like to you, I guess?
Do I see success for Spurs? I guess I have to lay out what I think success is before I answer that. And I think it's the same as you. I think it's just a trophy. And I genuinely don't care which one. As long as it's legitimate, I don't care which one. So for me, do I see Spurs being successful? Don't think so. Don't think I do. And again, might not be doom and gloom necessarily, but I think for us, we don't play the football to go close in knockout tournaments. If we're going to play how we play, if you're winning 2-1 in a one-off game and you're still going to put 9 players in front of the ball, I don't like you're putting your chances of winning that game very, very slim. Very, very slim. And look at Man United. Man United took their foot off the gas, and any team, even a team like Coventry, who were 8th place in the championship, can come back and get you. You don't know what can happen in those cups. So we're not set up to play knockout football. So then that leaves us to the Premier League, and I guess technically you want to class the Champions League as half knockout, half league, whatever. We ain't winning those 2 competitions either. Or Europa League is what most likely we'll go into. I don't think we're going to win those 2 competitions either. So we have to then narrow down to what's the best probability, or what trophy do we have the best probability of winning. And I'd probably say either Carabao or Europa. So for me, success is Carabao or Europa.
Okay, so I think we both touched on being next season. So again, we might have to now rephrase the outlook, realign the outlook, should I say. Okay, and I'm going to use this example. People might not like it, but I will. Arteta, he was given, or he's at, 4 years, 4.5 years, 5 years nearly now at Arsenal?
Yep, 5 years.
His brief was to obviously become the Arsenal of old. That's his brief. Get out all them players that, were on high wages, blah, 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 blah. I think also for him, Arteta personally, was to get out players that he felt that he, not to say couldn't manage, but certainly were more difficult to manage. And we all know those type of players. We all know those more senior type of players who maybe look at the way younger managers maybe come in and trying to get the, we all know Aubameyang, what's his name? The Gollum-looking one that used to have at Arsenal. What's his name as well?
Lacazette?
Not Lacazette. The Gollum-looking one of German. No, not him. From
Ozil.
before.
How can you forget Ozil's name?
Because I don't like him. I don't like him. He looks like Gollum. He looks like Trossard's cousin, if I'm honest with you. But that's another story. But what I'm saying is they weeded out them players to get them younger players in to be able to get him to stamp his authority. And now we're seeing the fruits of that. But however, they won an FA Cup in that time, in his first season or the end of that first season. So I think that bought him time, because I don't think, had he not had the season before last, when they finished, was it 8th? Or they certainly finished below us.
8th, 5th, 2nd.
Yeah, so 5th one when they were up there, then they fell off and we went above them and we was all gloating. I think he would have been sacked at that point had they not had the success of the FA Cup. Or maybe the board, the managers, the CEOs, they said they were going to support him. We all seen what happens at Spurs. How long would you say it would be before the chatter would start if we weren't to win anything next season? Do you think then it puts pressure on him for next season? Or are we giving him 5 years? Are we giving him a 5-year window? Because I don't think 5 years, in my opinion, is what managers get these days. I think it's 2 to 3 years. And if you don't have any success in 2 to 3 years, I'm not even saying 2 years, as a top team, I'm not talking about the Crystal Palace of this world, and no disrespect to them. I'm talking about the top tier teams: Liverpool, Man United, Man City's, Arsenal's, Spurs, put in that conversation as well. And I guess who else? City, obviously City.
I will be honest with you. It's not pressure. The chatter, I think, could start as early as this Sunday. We get battered like they did Chelsea, and then go on to do something that I'm not even going to put out there or even say. I think based off pure anger, we chatter will at least start. Maybe not serious, but chatter will definitely start. Realistically, I think it's a case of when Spurs fans realize, because I think a lot of Spurs fans now are coming to the sense that they just want to win a trophy. I think they've seen the likes of West Ham win trophies. Aston Villa could potentially win a big trophy this year. Trophy that we kind of turned our nose up to and didn't really care that we got wrongfully thrown out of it without playing the game. But we didn't care about that because it's only the Conference League. We're happy because we've now got a game a week. These clubs are winning trophies, and especially with the likes of Aston Villa, and maybe if you really want to put Newcastle in there, Newcastle, they're getting to a point where they look better than us, and they may even be challenging more consistently than us. And it just means that there's going to be more competition for these trophies that we want to win. So for me, I think the chatter will start once fans realize we might not win a trophy next season. So whether that be us going out early in FA Cup and Carabao, I don't know. But I definitely think from when we sort of know that we're not going to be in any competitions or fighting properly for any competitions, I think people will be like, well, we've spent the money. So can't say that we haven't spent the money. Where's
I'm hearing, but we're playing good football. It's so much better than the Conte. It's this, it's that.
I think that's for now, and I think that's good. But I'm already starting to see people who said that not change completely, but you don't want to get beat by Newcastle like how we did. You don't want to get beat by Chelsea like how we did. We've Brighton as well. Don't want to get that was a horrible performance. So we've been pammed a few times this season, and if we're getting pammed and we're like, all right, cool, we're getting pammed, but like with United, for example, 2 finals and an FA Cup, like you can't, even though you got battered by your big rival 7-0, they got Carabao in 3rd place last season. They got to a final this season. Like, they can, some fans have had enough, but some fans can see if we win a trophy, it's all that matters. So for me, the whole nice football brigade thing will stop once there's a realism that we won't win anything. Because, like you said, the nice football isn't success. The nice football is what most people assume is going to lead to success. You know what I mean?
Correct.
So that's why we put so much emphasis on the nice football. Back in the day when it was Jose Mourinho winning trophies on elite defense, we didn't care about nice football, or certain people didn't care about nice football. So, yeah, I understand good attacking football. You look at Leverkusen, you look at Arsenal, suffocate teams. They have all their players in the half. It leads to, the chances of it leading to success are higher, but it don't guarantee it. So at the end of the day, I just want to see the success. And I think people will start to lose their patience when they don't see that coming to fruition, especially if we make signings like, Werner on a permanent. And I've seen a lot of youngsters with not really much experience being linked to first team positions in our team. That ain't going to get us anywhere. So, yeah. Significant moves in the market, and if there's a lack of significant moves in the market, and if fans start to see we ain't winning nothing this season, I think it will start to change pretty quickly.
So David, thanks for your comments. You've got a lot coming through here. Sorry, but from what I've seen, our front three are inconsistent in attack, but are woeful out of possession. Pav, yo lads, circle go. Just got home. City winning, and we must win Sunday. Not going to lie, don't have a good feeling, but we got to pattern the Woolwich lot. I think there's a lot of people saying we don't have a good feeling. I'm not sure. Well, I know what it is. It's because they're too close to winning the whole thing. I'm not going to go too much because we're going to have a preview show on that. So Friday, look out for the preview show. The Arsenal game, 12 p.m. Sid Spurs will be taking that up. Big up from Scarfy Spurs Talk. Well, thank you for that. David Clark, again, I don't care what level of football is. If you go with the luxury of playing 3 players up front, they have to graph an out of possession, but our forwards have no physicality. That's one of the biggest things about what I've seen and I've noticed about our players. In my opinion, we lack fight. Now, what you've said about Sunday's game in terms of if the talk's going to start, it doesn't, in my opinion, in normal circumstances, if we play Arsenal...
City, by the way.
Wicked, that's cool.
We'd have to worry about that no more.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. We don't have to worry about that. We always look at the Arsenal game as being the one. Doesn't matter where teams are in the league. in history gone by, it's always been right. It's Arsenal. It doesn't matter. And I've seen players up their game, whatever that would mean. Whether that's put more fight in there, whether they play a bit more direct, whether they play whatever it is. We've seen our team up their game. Now, because we played Arsenal early part of the season, this season it was in them first 10 games, and we got that draw at the Emirates. Everybody's like, "Oh my God, look at that! We're playing beautiful football." I think it was pretty even in terms of how the game went, first half, second half. Do you know what I mean? But since then, I've seen a lot. Obviously, I've seen Arsenal get stronger, but they've also, the biggest thing is Arteta has compromised at times. He has changed something slightly. He's had to do that. They've got more defensively solid than they were last season.
Look at the City game.
Yeah, they play in a different way. They didn't mind not having as much of the ball. But it seems like we're obsessed with having the ball. But they weren't. They were bothered about what is the strength that we're going to have to possess to beat City. You have to look at the other team to see if they're better than you. Even if they're not better than you, still have to look at the other team and think to yourself, what is their strength? What is their weaknesses? I would say that Crystal Palace are a weaker team than us, but they must have certain strength because they win games. They must have some success. It's obvious. You try and nullify that. Maybe you put slightly bigger players in your team because you're playing a team that's got height and they're going to play aerially. They're going to play more direct. They're going to set pieces are going to be thing, i.e. West Ham. I'm not saying you have to change for every single opponent you play, but there are times when you've got a few injuries, a few suspensions, players are a bit off form, you need a result. You have to do something. You know that yourself. And when we've played football and me coaching and you playing, so you know that there has to be. But again, if you're a very, very good team, you can let your football do it, but you still have to have plans. You still have to have.
If you're Man City, if you're Man City, you can say, "Bun your tactics. We're just going to do what we want to do." Because if you're Man City, you have to, you as the opposition have to plan for Man City. Man City aren't obviously Pep and whatever analysis team and coaching team. They're going to think about the opposition, of course, but they're not going to put, absolute 100% attention on purely the opposition. They're going to work on them and make sure that they're elite. Now, we want to be that. We want to be that team where you have to sort of try and better us, but we don't have that quality. And I also think that we overrate some of the players who are starting in this 11. As much as people say we need a squad and we need 16 and this and that, I think the 11 can still have work done to it. So I think we need to start, looking at what Arsenal did to get to the position they're in. Look at what City did to get to the position they're in.
Not even Arsenal.
Money.
Look at teams like Aston Villa.
Villa spent money.
Villa spent money, but not. I wouldn't say outside of the realms that we've spent or outside of the realms that we could spend.
No,
they've just got it right. They've got it right in what they're doing. They've also got it right in terms of the manager. He knows
manager, by the way.
Very underrated. Because now it can be both ways. They changed their game against us in the second game they played against us this season, then they lost it. Emery was trying to be too clever because of that, because he looked at us and think, they're going to have the ball. I might need to change this. Now, again, that's good thinking from his perspective because he kind of looked at the side and being, right, you know what? I might have to alter how I play. But in the first game, they deserve to beat us. But I think teams have worked us out. As I said to you, teams have worked us out. And even the weaker teams, let them have the ball. The game is won in both boxes. That's the biggest saying in football. The game is won in both boxes. If we have 20-something touches in the opposition box but not scoring goals, that tells me we're not getting shots. That tells me you're playing one too many passes. I would rather see 5 touches in the box and 3 goals than 27 touches in the box and 1 goal. It makes more sense. You've got to be clinical. You've got to finish. Our players aren't necessarily that.
Yeah.
And as well, the last thing I want to say about this is that I think you're right. I think knockout football is going to be very interesting to watch for us next season, particularly in 2-legged affairs. I think that in the league formats of whatever competition we're in, we do all right at home, but away from home, we've seen in Europe, I think you have to change your game at times. You can't just think you can roll up to the Bernabeu
It's
It is arrogance. You can't roll up to the Bernabeu and thinking,
Who are
I'm
you?
going to play the same way, mate. I'm going to
Who
play
are
exactly
you?
the same way, mate. And we're going to beat. No, you're not. No, you're not.
Even
You're
Man
not.
City couldn't do that. And if Man City can't rock up to the Bernabeu and take the piss out of Real Madrid, nobody can. Because nobody is doing that. Nobody is going to the Santiago Bernabeu and having their way with Real Madrid. Don't care what you say.
Facts.
Don't care if we beat them. Don't care if we beat them at Wembley. Real Madrid and Real Madrid. Like I said, I will find a way to quantify heritage and I'll make a lot of money off it because then we can use football heritage as a statistic. And when I find a way to quantify football heritage, I will, guys. Because Real Madrid will be up there with the highest stats of football heritage. Sometimes you just know how to get it done. Sometimes the fans just know how to spur you on to get it done.
Let me throw this one in there. And this does pull down to football heritage. And it's with a team that everybody has been clowning. Not just the only team. Man United. Since Eric Ten Hag's been here, well, since Alex Ferguson left, let's forget all the other stuff. But let's just focus on the Ten Hag era. You wouldn't say that that's the best football in the world. Definitely hasn't got the team playing the way he wants to do. But he's had success. How many finals has he now made in the 2.5, nearly 3 years he's been there? Is this his third final? He's won one trophy already.
Carabao and 2 FA Cups, yeah, third final. It'll be his third final. And he's only won one trophy.
And he's won one trophy, but that's Man United. Now, had we been replace Ange with Ten Hag in that same scenario 3 years in, because I think it's his third year now.
No, second. He started last season.
If we'd have been in 3 finals, well, this would be our third final in 2 years, and we'd won one cup. Ange, you could do what you like. Pretty much, you can do what you like.
He'd have an empty, open check, whatever you want to say, blank check, whatever saying you want to make up. He would have whatever. And this is maybe not in terms of the board. The board might not give him everything he wants, but the fans, he'd have all the credit in the bank. He could play a 1-8-1 formation, a 1-1-8 formation, and we would all be like, we wouldn't care.
He could start with 10 men sometimes. I'll be like, oh, you're resting the player.
And he's got a tactic. I'd be like, I don't care. And that's
if you've already won that trophy and you're in your third final in 2 years, I'll be like,
that's what's so jarring to me because, like, Man United, don't get me wrong, and I'm not trying to give Man United credit when we say, I assume you're not trying to give Man United credit when you say that as well. No, I think Man United is shocking at the moment.
They're terrible. But what I'm saying to you is the football heritage thing that you mentioned is what Man United almost living off at this moment in time. You
don't go to Old Trafford and get a result.
Yeah.
You don't go to Old Trafford to get a result.
Yeah.
We don't do that. No, not many clubs do that. What's that crazy stat where they've won every single game in like the last 50 odd that they've led at Old Trafford or whatever it is?
Half time. Yeah.
Because you don't rock up to these big stadiums with 70,000 fans who know how to win. And it is important for fans to know how to win as well, because I think Spurs fans, when it gets to it, you can feel nerves sometimes when it comes to crunch time and there's certain games that have importance, or 80th minute, I can feel nerves sometimes. Even like when you're watching it with you, like we almost know what to expect. Like the best example I give is when we went to go and watch the Carabao Cup final against Man City, and we were all gassed. But as soon as we only lost 1-0, but as soon as Man City scored, nobody thought we were going to win that game.
Exactly,
because you just there's no belief, and again, that's not our fault. We've not been given opportunities to put that belief into our team, but like you said, Man United have a history, and Man United know how to win. Eric Ten Hag to get into 3 finals, finish third, and having a Carabao Cup in his back pocket. If you don't make it past next season, I don't think he'll be too mad at what he's done there, given all the crazy stuff that's happening above him as well.
I'll tell you what, if somehow, some way they can beat Manchester City in the final, Eric Ten Hag would have been as successful as any of the managers since Alex Ferguson at Manchester United. And the reason I say that is because this team has seen off managers. They'd seen off. And I'm only going to touch on this for a little bit now for the Man United thing to get back onto the Spurs track.
Yeah.
Because, they have got this. They need to win every season. They need to win something. And they've pretty much, not every single season, but, Louis van Gaal had success. Jose had success. You know, Ten Hag's had success. Even Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, didn't he win the FA Cup? Didn't he win something?
He finished second.
He finished second.
He didn't win a trophy though.
Okay, he didn't win a trophy.
He finished second.
But yeah, he finished, and that's probably a miracle in itself with him in charge.
They didn't. Nah, yeah, he finished second. Jose won the Europa League. He didn't win the Europa League.
Okay, so now I'm going to bring it back to the Spurs aspect of it. In my opinion, and this is the uncomfortable part of the conversation that we're going to finish on, is that if next season we don't have success, because remember, Ange has said this in the press conference. He said next year we're going to be challenging for the league. Whatever that looks like in his head, I'm assuming it means you're going to be as close to Man United as Liverpool and Manchester. Sorry, as close to Arsenal as Liverpool and Manchester City are. That's the title race up at this point. So I'm assuming that that's what he's meaning. We can't be where we are and think we're challenging. We can't be where Aston Villa are and think we're challenging. So it has to be closer at this stage of the season. He said that. If he doesn't get success next season, uncomfortable conversations part 3, I potentially could see him not being here after that. And the reason I say that is there's going to be opportunities potentially at Manchester City for one thing, possibly Liverpool,
Barcelona.
Barcelona.
Well, even though Xavi's staying now, but don't know how long he will do.
The reason I say that, and I'm not saying that to be facetious or just trying to make it out there, throwing barbs out there that you're thinking that you don't want to have Ange. No, I'm not saying that. Ange doesn't stay where he is for too long. We know that. But he has that success where he's been. That success, you can taper that to say it's been in Australia, Japan, and Scotland. But that's within 2 years, he's had success. Within 2 years, he said he's going to have success. He said he's going to have success at Spurs in some way, shape, or form. But there's other teams out there who maybe could offer him the sort of money or the sort of approach that he would be able to get the FIFA 24 players that he wants. Manchester City could do that. Now, because of the financial fair play and all the rest of it, Newcastle might not be able to do that. They might have to sell to buy. But, you know, if you look at Chelsea and what they've done, had Ange been there and he got all the players that he'd wanted, they didn't buy well, but had he got the players that he wanted, he'd probably be doing the same thing at Chelsea
spent
now.
Well. Yeah, you're right. If they'd spent well, and this is the thing, Ange, I think, suits those massive clubs. I actually think Ange Postecoglou is one of the, you know who would be perfect for Ange Postecoglou if they gave him everything he needed. And bearing in mind they're making good moves upstairs, Manchester United.
Oh yeah, that's a
Manchester
good,
United.
very
bearing in
good.
mind they've just got Dan Ashworth from Newcastle, and they're signing a few. They're really Ineos are doing their thing now, where they're trying to create a footballing platform for whoever the manager or sporting director is to see if they can be successful with Man United. Ange would steady that ship at Man, because the Man United fans they've lost their mind. Man United fans are all over the place. Some hate Ten Hag. Some are just like, why sack him? It's the same old. I think he would be perfect for Man U. But I'm not shipping my manager over to Manchester United, so I'm going to stop talking about that. But I have thought about this as well, Sam. Man City, I've already spoken and had interest in Ange. Play teams like Bayern Munich. I wouldn't be surprised if Ange Postecoglou went to these clubs, because that sort of personality, he wants to win, but I don't think he realizes the situation he's got himself in at Spurs.
Maybe he was.
I think he got overconfident. I think he thought he was that good.
I believe that. I think as a lot of managers should be, they should be overconfident, bordering on arrogance. And the arrogant side of things can work in your favor. If you look at Pep Guardiola now, he's an arrogant person, but it's a good arrogance because he's successful. Everywhere he's been, he's had success. Now, that comes with a checkbook as well. Let's not put it down to him just being the best manager. He's very, 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 very good. Probably the best manager of modern times, but he's needed finances. Modern game, you can't get away with it. If people think we can win the league with the squad that we've got and sign Timo Werner, fuck off. That's what I'll say to you. Fuck off. We're not winning nothing. So if I see us signing Timo Werner and or Conor Gallagher, season ticket is going to be ripped up. Oh no, I might still keep my season ticket, but I'll just put it on Ticket Exchange. I've said this in the group chat. I'll be selling it every single week because I know we're not going to win anything. It might be entertaining. Yeah, we might beat this team 3-4, but we're going to get pammed more often than not with those two sides.
That goes so far, doesn't it? Especially when you see your team get beat badly. Like, I don't think any Chelsea fan, as well as Cole Palmer's doing, that Man United win, it's sweet when in the moment, but then when you go to Arsenal and you get dealt with like that, and your old player who you saw as surplus to requirements and sold for the same price he bought him comes back and scores two. It's like it comes to a point where like the good is gonna get outweighed by the bad soon, and we've got a lot of good. That's why Ange is very lucky he won those 12 games, or he went unbeaten for those 12 games, because if we carried on how we were now, I think he might not have made a year. Potentially.
But you know what? I would have rather have seen us start like how we're finishing the last 10 games and have the finish that we had at the start, if that makes sense, because it would have said, it would have meant that, okay, we've got better and he's improved because he's seen how teams are and he's worked out a way to win. What I think's happened is he started his style. Nobody knew how to really play us. Nobody knew our approach. And inverted fullbacks. We've seen that, but oh my God, he's popping up oh my God, he's getting to the byline. We've seen the inverted fullbacks. Arsenal tried it. Manchester City tried it. But the way Ange has done it is like both fullbacks are now inverted and both fullbacks play as high. Both fullbacks can sometimes be past the forward. And if you're a team that doesn't know about that and slightly weakened in your approach, or you haven't quite got to grips with those tactics, you are going to get caught out. And because we were starting fast in games, having a lot of possession, it meant that getting them goals, we're winning games more often than not. Fast forward 19 games after that, 10, and it's a different story. It's a very different story. His injuries kicked in, suspensions kicked in, arrogance, I think, kicked in. The arrogance, I think, was the Chelsea one for me, and we touched on that at the start. You can't do that. We could have won that game.
People actually they commemorated him for it. They thought it was good what he did. I saw people say, "That's my manager. Yeah, we're gonna do that." We could have actually got a point. We could have actually got a point.
And we could have actually nicked it. I was at that game. Son had an opportunity to nick that. I think it was Bentancur as well. There might have been an opportunity.
Dyer as well scored a banger.
Yeah, it was offside, wasn't it? Was it offside or it was
offside?
Oh my good grief! So that game, I think that was so pivotal because it opened up a lot of people's eyes to Ange in a, oh my God, this is fantastic. But then for some of us, it was like, oh my God, is he really going to do this every single game?
We watched that game together, and I'm pretty sure I remember us looking at each other many times in that second half and thinking, are we actually is this actually happening right now? Are we witnessing this? 9 men, Eric Dyer is one of your centre backs, and we're still playing. I could not believe it, and I can't see a positive. I couldn't see a positive to the way we played that game. Yeah, it was great.
Exactly wrong. I was at that game. I was live watching us play, and I couldn't believe what I saw with when we went down to 9. I was like, okay, surely now 10 men. I thought, yeah, you can be aggressive. You're at home. 9 men. I'm saying, okay, surely now you're putting banks behind. You're putting 2 banks of 4 and your goalkeeper, or a bank of 5 and 3. Oh no! Oh no! We're still
sounds
playing
crazy
2.
When you say it. When you tell me,
We're still playing 2 defenders on the halfway line, and everybody else do what you like. And then I saw us trying to hold offside with 8 outfield players.
Eric Dyer was trying to play an offside line
with 8 outfield players, and all I saw was Nicholas. I'm sorry, Miss Jackson, just getting in and in and in, and he was lucky. He had about 25,000 shots and he scored. I think he got a hat-trick that game.
Worst hat-trick of all time.
So to go back full circle on this point, Ange has to change the way he plays at certain times next season. I don't care what he says to us about, no, mate, we're going to play this way. I'm going to just bring the players. I'm going to coach them. Well, I've seen that doesn't work in the Premier League. It doesn't work at the top echelons of football unless you're the only 2 teams or 1 team. Bayern Munich could do that. You could probably go to Manchester City and think they can do that. And you can go to Celtic and you can do that. You can't do it if you're not Manchester City in the Premier League, in my opinion. But we shall see. We shall see. David Clark, it's not Rubik's Cube. Our tactics should have been sussed after a fortnight. It's obviously two inverted wingers push 65 yards up the pitch. You just hit the huge spaces using players with pace up front. And
you know what? With all due respect, David Clark, and I genuinely mean this with no disrespect. If you, me, and Sam can suss that out, then there's no way that every single Premier League club hasn't worked that one out as well. Because we ain't even coaches, my friend. I don't even know, David. You may be an elite UEFA A-level coach for all I know, but I'm not. And I knew what our tactics was, like you said. Like you said, David, I knew what our tactics was very, very early into that season. And this was during the run of form as well. So we saw things happen. Even the Liverpool game, when we were dominating, and I was like, they're still having chances, this Liverpool team, against us. And they've got 9 players. And they literally had 2 banks of 4. It was 2 banks of 4 at one point. So yeah, if Jurgen Klopp's got the what's the word? If he knows that he has to sometimes compromise his tactics, Ange Postecoglou, David put it, we're going to see a lot more batterings before we see any success.
You know what people have been saying now? They're saying, oh, why does he have to change his tactics? Why does he have to change his style? Klopp never did that. Pep never did that. Okay.
Yeah, but we're talking
about... Do we have the history of what Guardiola does at City? Do we have Liverpool's history of doing things? And Klopp might not have changed a lot of ways, and he does, but you're telling me where they were at the end of last season, they were kind of like 8th or below, and then they finally managed to get back above us in the race for that top 5 or wherever they finished in the end, because they got Europa.
Yeah.
But I watched those games. They had a lot of players out. They had what's his name? Van Dijk out for a little while. Their defense was shocking. They weren't able to, win games comfortably, but there was something in them that they managed to get it right, click towards the end of the season. They went on a run. Now they got all their players back. You would reckon that we've got all our players back, and so if you go by the first 10 games, you would think, oh, all our players are now fit. We've got our best squad available. We've worked through 7-8 months of this season. We should be better. But again, you might be better, but that doesn't mean say other teams ain't going to get better, and other managers ain't going to get better, and other coaches ain't going to see. As you said, they've got all these departments, which is, oh my God, boss, look what I've worked out.
Yourself. We've been through this, Sam. Don't even
stress. I know, but it frustrates me because, like I said, I'm not going to blow my own trumpet, but I am going to do a little bit. I'm a level B, like level UEFA B, level 3 coach, 1-off-A license. I can coach in the Prem. I couldn't manage a team in the Prem until I get, past that. But I can coach in the Prem. I don't need a level 3 to tell you how to play against Spurs. I could be a level 1 doing the cones and playing little games to tell you how to beat Spurs, because I saw it after the first few games. But I thought, right, if you play better than the other team, you can get away with it. But once teams work you out, like David's saying, it's not Rubik's Cube. Our tactics should have been sussed after a fortnight. It's obvious. 2 inverted wingers push 65 yards up the pitch. You just hit the huge spaces using players with pace. You don't need the ball very often. You can have 20% and beat us, which I've seen. The crazy thing about the Chelsea game, it was a modern offside rule that done for us. Jackson was able to stand 10 yards offside in the middle and play the ball wide, giving Jackson the advantage. Take advantage of that. So, yeah, you're quite right in that, David. Klopp had players who didn't give up possession in transition, so they created chances when we allowed our opponents to counter-attack us when we lost possession in transit. Again, you're spot on with what you see. Do you see Ange being here in 3 years' time, Darius? Even in 2 years' time?
3 years? Oh, no way. No way.
Even if he's won something.
I would love him to be. I'm not even trying to sound like an Ange hater. I'd love him to be here in 3 years with an elite squad and challenging for the title. But the guy, he's talking a lot and he's not leaving himself much room for error.
Unless he changes. If he changes next season and he does a slight tweak, he would have learned. But if he goes into next season with the players that I think that we're going to get in the transfer window, I don't know, but I'm seeing talk about certain players, and he plays the same way, we're fucking done, fam.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like, he's literally said he expects us to be challenging for the league next season. So he's now put himself in that corner. If we're not challenging for the league, we've got it in paper, evidence that you said we were going to be challenging for the league. So if anyone tells me, oh, well, this is a 3-year project, this is a 5-year project, but the leader of the project told me it was going to take 2 years. So now what? So as much as I want to support, like not support, because I do support him, as much as I want to back him blindly, I can't. If we don't see success next season, and I'm not going to take what he says literally. Like, if I don't think we're going to win the league. So if he wins the Carabao, great. If I don't see success after you've said confidently, you expect us to be challenging for the league. You either know something we don't, or you think you're the Don. So you better show that you're the Don.
It almost seems like to me that if, and this is where I guess as fans, we differ. Some fans. If we finished 8th next season, didn't qualify for Europe at all, like we didn't do last year, but won the Carabao or FA Cup.
Oh, parade, mate. Banners, fireworks.
I'll be doing all of that for the next.
We'd have a celebration stream.
Yeah, but Ange might come out and say, "I wasn't happy." What managers should say they're not happy with the season? Some managers would. It depends on the team. We should never, ever be saying that wasn't a successful season for us if we finished 8th and won the Carabao Cup. But some people might say that. The manager might even say that. The board may even think that. Because you know what? Domestic trophies don't bring in as much money as playing in the Champions League. And this is where the problem is and how they've clouded what we expect to be success. Now, Arsene Wenger said it a long time ago. And even now, people are thinking, if we get into the Champions League, because we get a fifth might not be good enough now, so it has to be 4th. If we don't get into the Champions League this season,
I'll be so happy.
I'll be happy, but some people be like, oh my God, we're not in the Champions League. How can we compete? Well, how could we compete last season and we didn't get in the Champions League? We have to have somewhere where we can start. Start by winning the most easiest thing that you can win. And in my opinion, that's the Worthington Carabao, whatever cup, milk cup, whatever you want to call it, cup. That is it. That's it. Oh my gosh.
Wow, Alex is not happy.
Alice is going off. We're about to play the top 3 teams in the Prem, and Chelsea are bogey team. So in our current form, I see us scoring 4 goals in those games, but conceding 11. We don't know what's going to happen. As I said, this is not set in stone. This is just people's opinion. So everybody just calm down in the chat if we're getting irate by other people's comments. I don't get irate by other people's comments. It's what everybody has in their opinion, and everybody's entitled to their opinion. This could turn out to end up as another poor season, having lost 12 games. That's not progress. Well, is league position better if you're higher than the amount of games that you lost the season before? Points? What is it? Do you measure
that's
it by...
more determined of the teams around you, though, isn't it? Like,
exactly.
You gotta look at your own points. At the end of the day, like, if you're in a higher position but you're on the same amount of points, that just shows that the teams around you are worse. Do you know what I mean? So,
Alex, I don't know what's going on. Anyway, I think we've kind of touched on a lot about what I think next season's going to look like. We don't know what next season's going to look like. But before, again, anybody starts getting... Look at the title of the actual show, Uncomfortable Conversations. If you're not comfortable with the conversation, I suggest you don't watch us. That's all I'll say. If you're comfortable and listening, you've got your own opinion, put them up in the chat. But let's not be rude. That's all I'll say to that. Darius, final thoughts.
I hope we've all got our Bibles ready, whatever religion you follow graciously. I hope we all have our holy books ready. I hope we all have our candles lit. I hope we all make a very, very big prayer tonight, tomorrow, and Saturday, because Sunday, that's all that matters. Sunday is all that matters. And I'm not here for the preview. So I'm just going to say, I don't care how, who, what, why, where, when, who, what, whatever word. Just get it done, Tottenham. Just get it done. That's it.
Good way to finish that. And like I said, just the last time I mentioned it, please, if you've got your comments, we don't mind what you put up there. Just don't be rude. You don't have to be rude to anybody. You can have your opinion And if you are rude, you get blocked, as I've had to do with certain people. So that being said, thank you, Darius. My final thoughts is I hope that Ange gets what he needs in the summer transfer window. I hope that Ange learns a lot from this season. I hope we don't have the same almost ignorance to kind of think that we can just play any way we want and win games of football. I think you have to alter how you play depending on the opposition and depending on what competition. A two-legged affair where you're winning 1-0 and you need to get a result, not to lose away from home. I don't think you should be going out gung-ho. Look what's the name did. Was it against Liverpool? Was it Atlanta? Who was it?
Oh, yeah, Atalanta, yeah.
Anyway, let me not talk too much more.
And they're known for being Gianpiero Gasperini is one of the most attacking-minded managers. But
facts.
When you beat Liverpool 3-0, and I'm not saying they got lucky, but it's not every day you beat Liverpool 3-0 at Anfield. You ain't gonna throw that opportunity away.
And they were playing at home, so they didn't go, "Oh, we're playing at home. We've got our fans behind us. We're going to go and rock out and try and win this game 3-0 as well."
Understood that as well.
They knew. They knew, and that's where I think I want to see learning. And if I see, anyway, let's not talk too soon. Darius, thank you very much for your comments. As again, thank you all watching the stream. You've seen what we're like. You know what I mean? We're not personal with anything. We're just talking. So please don't get personal with us. Don't get personal with people in the comments. Enjoy the show. And if you don't watch. But that's not the way to end. Thank you for watching PRTv Spurs Packs and Row TV. We'll be back on Friday for the preview show against them. And it's time to go and watch City at least. Probably get 6 goals, I'm hoping. And get that goal difference back closer, because that's the next thing now. I want them to get the goal difference back closer. So at least then,
more room for error.
Yeah, exactly. More room for error. Come on, you Spurs, as David's saying. Thank you, David, for your comments. Thank you all in the comments section. It's been a pleasure. It's been a healthy debate, I think, and it's certainly helping me get to grips with what I'm expecting to see next season. God, damn. Right then, thank you. That's all. I'm gonna find the music and we're out. This is the one. Come on, you Spurs. More developed, more